This episode is brought to you by Starry. When you drink Starry Lemon Lime Soda, every sip is a win. Perfect for game time or anytime. It's a crisp, refreshing lemon lime soda that's caffeine-free and bursting with flavor that makes you go, ah. Starry hits different. Find it in stores or online today.
Our shark couldn't have killed Overman. Its mother did.
You're talking about some damn shark's mother?
Hello and welcome to Unequal Sequel. My name is Dave and I'm one of the two hosts of this adorable podcast.
And I'm Rich, and I'm the other host of this adorable podcast. Think of me as Luigi to Dave's Mario. He's got a fake Italian accent, and I'm slightly taller, but essentially the same.
You say Mario, I say Mario. The premise of Unequal Sequel is very simple. We ask our guests their best ever sequel, their worst ever sequel, and finally their dream sequel.
And of course, we'll quite often drift off and talk about other things, sometimes movies, sometimes life in general.
And of course, we drop spoilers for films. So if you haven't seen the film we're talked about and you don't want us to ruin it, sorry, because we do, go off, go do a bit of unicycling. That's fun. It's hard. And then come back, because it'll take a while, and it'll all be done. Because on today's episode, we are joined by Jamie East.
Jamie is a brilliant TV presenter. You may have seen him on Big Brother's Bit on the Side and other Big Brother spin-offs. You might know him from his presenting podcasts like Thronecast, the Game of Thrones podcast, and recently The Sound of Succession, also known as Dragoncast when House of Dragons comes around as well. He also does a brilliant podcast called Smart 7, where he talks about all the news of the day in 7 minutes. It's a nice little short snippet of a podcast, so definitely check that out.
Yeah, because we're very excited to sit down with Jamie and talk all things sequels with him.
These are Jamie East's Unequal Sequels. Enjoy!
Can you remember the first sequel you got excited about when you were younger?
It would have almost certainly been Empire Strikes Back. I think that's probably any kind of like white man with a beard.
Look at us.
I think that I can't remember. I'm not sure how long it was before I kind of even the concept of sequels really. Maybe it was Superman 2, which came first. It was probably Empire.
I think it was Empire first, not by much.
Yeah, they were quite close though, weren't they? I think Superman 1 was 79.
Yeah.
But they filmed Superman 1 and 2 at the same time.
Oh,
it's an amazing story. Richard Donner, who directed the Superman 1 and Superman 2, they filmed simultaneously with Terence Stamp as Zod and all the rest of it. There was some massive falling out with Dino Laurentiis between the two movies coming out, and something happened and it all went tits up. But so arguably Superman 2 was shot first, whether or not it got released first.
They're both 1980.
Yeah, they're both 80, wow. Yeah. I think Superman was early 80 and Empire was like summer, wasn't it? I
don't ever remember going to. I must have gone to the cinema. No, I don't. You know what? I don't think I even went to the cinema to see them. I would have been too young.
It was one of those things where Superman 2 came out in 1980 in America, and it didn't come out till 81 over here. So It was April 81 when we got it.
This is why pirate videos were so kind of like popular in the early 80s. Yeah. I remember for Christmas, my dad getting me Superman the movie and Star Wars on pirate VHS. No attempt at like kind of dressing it up as a legit thing. 2 pirate VHSs wrapped up under the tree.
Brilliant.
But I would have almost certainly been the same for Empire and Superman 2. So it would undoubtedly been one of those two.
And had you have watched Superman or Star Wars before?
Oh yeah, God, yeah, all in, balls deep. I mean, very, very small balls at that age, but deep on the left.
Did you have the toys? I think every man at that age had the toys, didn't they?
Every man at our age now weeps at the fact that we had all the toys and now no longer have the toys because we'd be living in bigger houses. Like they're all. I can vividly remember going to I think maybe WH Smith or something at the time. and having the Jawas, and did Luke used to have the lightsaber that used to push up and the arms. They used to
his hands.
Yeah, all of that. Had all of that. The tauntaun that Han kind of like climbed inside. All of those absolutely trashed without a second thought. There was no such thing as a collector's item back then. In any sense of the word. TV companies, BBC and ITV or ATV at the time, just used to tape over like original masters just because they thought that no one would ever want to watch the Muppet Show again or ever want to watch like Liverpool v Hamburg in a 1980s UEFA Cup or something like that. They're just mental. So there's just like swathes of stuff that's just been deleted. So collectors items were just never even a concept back then. I mean, God, we're scared to throw away a box for our trainers nowadays.
And that's why they're worth the money when you find them in a pack in the box and stuff, because there aren't any. Like,
in like 2060, we're all going to like get excited and realize that everyone's selling the same pair of Sambas at the same time. Fuck, these aren't worth anything. I've just like all these have done is insulated my loft for like 50 years.
Have you found yourself rebuying some of the toys from your youth?
No, and maybe I bought myself a Lego Millennium Falcon, or maybe my wife or kids. Bought me like the big one. I never had that. I think one of my friends had. They weren't Lego back then. They were just like toys that you could like lift up and play it. I bought myself the Lego Millennium Falcon. Spent like weeks building it, and then went away. And my son, who's now 25, and hopefully. His cheeks are burning red hot with crumpets of shame. He had a party while we were away and broke it and smashed it. And I found it in pieces under his bed. So not really kind of like traveled back and rebought toys that I hankered after. But I do collect like strange like figures. I'm addicted to I collect gorillas, the band Gorillas.
Oh, yeah.
I collect like tons and tons of their figures. Me and Paddy Considine have a competition with each other where we will egg each other on. We will say we're never going to do this again, and then they'll release like some limited edition thing only available in Bleecker Street in New York, and we'll both resist it for about a minute, and then one of us will go, "Oh, fuck it, I'm buying it," and then one of us. So we always wind each other up. So I'm surrounded by like Gorillas merchandise. I'm also into like. Chris Simpson's artist is one of my favorite guys off social media.
Oh, right.
And he's just started releasing like little figures as well. I don't know if it's not.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that's
like
really
little
cool.
dog. So I like all those kind of things, really.
You stamp limited edition on anything, and it makes me want it more. Exactly. I bought limited edition wine the other day when I went round Richard's.
You did, yeah.
It tasted exactly the same as the rest of the brand, but it had a special label, and I was like, I'm getting
like
that one.
Yeah. The bottle went in the same recycling bin, so
Oh man! If I had to ask you which one you preferred out of Empire and the rest of the Star Wars films, could you name them? Is Empire your favourite?
I think it's probably everyone's favourite, but I think mainly because they fit into that sweet spot. Like especially in trilogies, the second film is usually the least watched one. It's like because there's the big splash at first, and then the trilogy is the final one is like the big one. So I'd argue that even the sequel trilogy, like The Last Jedi, is easily the last watch for many reasons. But I think time will come back and people will go, "Oh, I've not watched that much." So and I think probably Empire is a bit like that. By the time Return of the Jedi came out, everyone was batshit crazy over Star Wars, and it was like a huge thing. I think when Empire came out, certainly in Birmingham, where I was living at the time as like a 7-year-old, it didn't feel like a cultural phenomenon. It just felt like a really cool thing that I was desperate to see.
Yeah.
But Superman 2 was like, I can remember getting very excited at Superman 2 because it just felt a bit more grounded in reality, which is a ludicrous thing to say about a Superman film. But it felt like it was on Earth for a start. And, the clothes were easily copied. You could just buy a pair of red pants,
Yeah.
So I think Empire is probably my favorite, but I'm not that it sounds weird. I'm not that precious about Star Wars films. I think because I've just watched, I've rinsed them so much. I feel a bit numb to them all. and certainly with what went on, I love the Mandalorian. I love the Obi-Wan stuff. I loved Andor. I love what they've done with the TV side of things.
Yeah,
but I do feel slightly numb by the whole thing. It feels a little bit like Corrie now. Where it's just like,
yeah,
something.
I can see that. I feel like that about Marvel, like Marvel movies.
Yeah, I mean, they've got countless problems, mainly because they always have the same fucking storyline. But I think they're going to have to sooner or later, someone's going to have to come up with a villain that isn't. I mean, General Zod is Thanos. They have never ever solved the angry man ending the world problem, which is every single kind of like fantasy film.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. Oh man, and what about the rest of the Superman films? Are you a fan of the third and the fourth one?
I'm not sure I've ever watched that. I mean, I must have watched the fourth one at some point. The third one I love, mainly for probably the same. In fact, I wish I'd chosen Superman. Mainly for the same kind of reasons I chose what my favorite sequel is, or the best sequel ever is. I think because it hits that sweet spot of kind of like 12 years old, 11 years old, however old I was. I think there's a case for, the songs that you loved when you were like 12, 13 are the songs that stay with you forever. It's like a real formulative part of your growing up, whether when puberty is just on the cusp, it kind of like everything starts to change, and I think you carry those early feelings with you for the rest of your life. So I think Superman 3, Richard Pryor wearing the foam cowboy hat with the kind of like briefcase full of miniatures, and just like I just remember watching it going, fucking the perfect crime, just taking 1 cent off everybody every month off their paycheck that no one will ever know. And then you kind of think, yeah, there's not many corporations would allow kind of like all of that money just to float. There was like a bit of a leap of faith, like there's just this money floating around that no one knows where it is. It's like, yeah, that's not true. But
I really like Superman 3. There's a lot of detractors for 3. But yeah, so three's the Richard Pryor one, and 4's the one they filmed in Milton Keynes, isn't it? Like,
well, 4's the one that Christopher
Reeves.
Christopher Reeves, yeah, sorry. He kind of like he got too powerful in terms of like the making of them, and he had too much say in the script and everything. So it was his idea for.
It is awful.
It is awful. 4's bad.
For this ecological kind of like story, the second actors become in charge of their vehicle, usually the wheels fall off, don't they?
Yeah, I think it's at the point where they're stood outside Milton Keynes bus station and pretending it's New York that I think that's the bit I'm done.
It's like when Jack Bauer, when Sky remade 24 there was like, I think it was called 24 Legacy or something. It
was,
like.
Yeah.
They shot it. I used to work at Sky, and they shot it on Gillette Corner in Isleworth. The old Gillette building, if anyone's like listening that travels along the A4 into London often, you'll see it. Great big Gillette building with a big clock tower just round the corner from Sky Central, Sky Beria as it's known. And there's a road that goes just round the back from the Great West Road to the car park of Sky. And they filmed the whole of that series in that building with CTU, this disused warehouse. And that road they shot from so many angles. They got whole car chases out of 2 cars just driving up and down the same road.
Wow.
It was fantastic. It's so bad.
So what is your best ever sequel? And this is a good one.
Right. Okay. So I had kind of night sweats about this choice like last night. In a sane world, I would have chosen Toy Story 3 because that is the best sequel in the world. But the actual best sequel in the world is Jaws 3D.
And this is only the second time it's happened on the podcast that someone has picked their best sequel that someone else has picked as their worst sequel.
Really? Who was that, Charlotte?
Sarah Budry, and she does a podcast called Let's Jaws for a Minute, and she watched Jaws every minute and talked about it.
Yeah.
And when she did a whole episode as Jaws 2 is the best, Jaws 3 is the worst, and then she came up with a Dream Jaws sequel.
But there is a Dream Jaws. There is another sequel, isn't there, with Michael Caine?
Well, that's the one she wanted to change.
Okay. Fine. Well, Sarah, you're talking shit because Jaws 3D is far superior to the other ones.
Right. Why?
Just
how?
Okay. So as I said with Superman 3, it hit that sweet spot. And I'll make a strong case, and no one will be able to argue this. This film is the only time that 3D has been a commercial and critical success in the cinemas.
Well, not Avatar.
Avatar's awful. This was a game changer. It got the gimmick of 3D got people into the cinemas to watch this, and I would argue that it is cheesy as fuck. It is the most successful B movie ever made, and I will defend it to the day I die. It's stupid.
It is, yeah.
No logical sense, but it is cool as fuck.
Did you watch it in the cinema in 3D?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It was terrifying.
Let's talk about that experience. So these are the old blue and red goggles, like paper glasses.
Yeah, 100%.
Did they hand them out on the way in?
Yeah, you got them. You got them in a packet on the way in, and they were precious because I tell you why, they made you feel American. Because we watched shows, as you said earlier on, films took so long to come over the Atlantic, and to 80s kids in Britain who didn't have anything really. We'd see films like E.T., we'd see films like The Goonies, we'd see, all these kind of like young adult kids, Temple of Doom, Short Round in the Temple of Doom, all of those kind of characters, they just looked brilliant. They looked so cool. They wore kind of snapbacks with headphones on, Walkmans. They wore Nike. They wore Jordans. They were allowed to wear jeans to school.
Yeah.
All of these things. They had BMXs, and all of these things were just so exotic and so kind of like out of reach to anyone, to someone growing up in Derby at that age. And 3D glasses just looked absolutely fucking brilliant. So but they came over I think Jaws 3D was probably the first mass market film that had that, or certainly it was what they splashed on anyway. 3D was then going to be the big thing, and I think maybe one of the papers gave them out, or Look-In magazine gave a pair out that you could like test and see like an apple on the page or something like that. So it was a craze, and the 80s loved a shit craze. Dealy boppers, all of that kind of stuff. Scratch and sniff. We loved all of that crap. So chance of getting your hands on a real actual pair of 3D glasses and to sit in a cinema with these on and see a kind of severed hand mysteriously float towards you with a bone sticking out of it I was palpable with excitement.
It worked. It made $87 million from a $20 million budget. It did make money.
It was Dennis Quaid in it.
Dennis Quaid, yeah.
Yes,
Dennis Quaid's the main character in it, and
Louis Gossett Jr. as well, another staple of like 80s naffness. Was Louis Gossett Jr.? He's one of the trainers in. He was Apollo Creed's trainer in Rocky, or am I?
No, that's something. That's something.
I apologize to Louis. But it had everything. It was a family drama in a space-aged underwater theme park, which it defied the laws of physics, geometry, everything. And it was just fucking glorious. And it was also the first time that I think the trope of, great, we've got it. Oh shit, no, the mum's here.
Yeah.
We've seen that loads of times since, and they all nicked it off Jaws 3.
I think that twist is quite good in this film.
It's great because you're kind of like, I don't know, 30 minutes in, and they've captured they've done what science still has never been able to do, and captured a live great white shark. I think isn't Dennis Quaid, his girlfriend is in the tank, like massaging a great white shark at one point, like petting, and it wakes up and she's like, oh, and jumps out, and it's there. They've done it.
Yeah.
It dies, doesn't it? Right.
The baby one does, because they put it in a paddling pool, pretty much.
The baby one dies. It's in a paddling pool and like literally cannot. It's like it's just its fin is poking out and his belly's scraping.
Yeah, it suddenly just rolls over.
It's like that fish does one shit and the whole pool is contaminated. So yeah, that dies and they're like, oh no, and then it all goes to shit, doesn't it? And then the mum is breaking into this. I mean, it's pretty prophetic, really. It showed us the danger and the badness of SeaWorld, which we now know to be a very evil corp.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was like, yeah, why not? Why don't we go and watch these killer whales and people water skiing around them? It was great.
Have you watched it since? Do you go back to it often?
If it's one of those ones where if it's on, you can't skip it. It's like Raiders of the Park. It's all you just like, fuck it. So I'm just going to go to. Oh no! Right, see you later, darling. I've got this. And the best thing is that they just play. I think pretty sure that whenever it's on telly now, they just play the 3D version. There used to be two versions. Used to get like the 3D version, but they just stick that on.
Yeah,
there's no. I think it doesn't look any worse or any better than the one that they tried to doctor for TV uses. It's appalling 3D by today's standards, but at the time, it just felt thrilling.
Yeah,
it just felt absolutely thrilling.
I can't imagine sitting in a cinema in the 80s and having a 3D film. I think that must have been mind-blowing. And you said it works, like the 3D worked at that time, like the hand at the end coming out at you and the shark.
Yeah, I mean it worked in the sense of like, this makes me like, it felt like mushrooms before I knew what mushrooms were. It just felt a little bit. It didn't feel like it was there.
Yeah,
but it wasn't there. You know, it was kind of, you could tell that it was something was going on, and it was just exciting to be.
I bet.
Part of being swept up in this phenomenon. It was just good fun.
Back in the day, did they make you pay extra for the 3D cinema glasses? Do you remember? Did it come with a ticket?
Do you know what? No, I think you just got them free.
What a bargain!
I know, absolute bargain. Now that would be a collector's item if you had an original Jaws 3D pair of glasses.
Oh yeah, definitely would. Yeah.
Did it say Jaws 3D on it or anything? That would be even cooler.
Yeah, I think they must have done some time with papers and it was pretty full on. But they were so shit, they were flimsy. They just made everyone feel like they needed an eye test because kids just like walk around with them all the time, and it fucks your peripheral vision up, doesn't it? And your kind of sense of depth.
Yeah.
Tripping over all the time.
I do remember kids like walking around wearing them all the time, like like they were cool, like sunglasses.
Which one is American? I think there was a kid in E.T. One of the teenagers, one of Michael's friends in E.T.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Used to wear 3D sunglasses, kind of like just bombing around, and it was just like, oh man, that just looks so.
It does, yeah.
I watched again Jaws 3D this morning. Sadly, not in the 3D, and I can't get on board that it's a brilliant film, but it's better than the fourth one.
Is it? I don't think it is.
Oh,
sorry.
The fourth one is where it follows where a distant relative of the Jaws 1 or Jaws 2 shark.
That's mental in its own.
Yeah. Rode his widow to Barbados.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
Yeah,
it is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Michael Caine's in it.
Michael Caine's never seen it, but also just says that like the best thing about that film is that it is house. That
yeah, absolutely.
Which is understandable.
I can get on board with that. I'm not going to argue with it.
Yeah, the fourth one is when the wife has like a mental connection with the shark, and they can tell each other what they're feeling, pretty much. And I think that could actually, yeah, you're right. That is probably the worst one. But this one's pretty bad. But I did have fun with it this morning.
It's a really fun film. And look, when I say it's the best sequel ever, I'm saying it through the prism of
youth.
A 12-year-old boy from Derby.
Yeah.
It was just like completely blown away by it. And I would argue that I would never, Godfather 2 will never have the same attraction to me as Jaws 3D had back in 1980, whenever it was.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole point of this podcast, because if we're going to say objectively what's the best ever sequel, then it'd just be the same ones every time. And so it's not about that. It's about what's the best thing to you.
Yeah. Get into the colour grading and the fucking references to blah, 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 blah. You like, but it doesn't make a film great. It doesn't make the hairs on the back of your arm stand up.
No.
Nice. It's the memories. Have you made your children watch it? Have you sat them down and said, kids, we're going to watch Jaws 3 today?
Sadly, they weren't on board for Jaws. Jaws 1 and Jaws 2, massively on board for. I think the problem is, like, one of maybe the only downside of Jaws 3 is that there aren't any kids in it.
That's true.
Like Jaws 1 and Jaws 2, kids were there, and it was like, here comes the Muffin Man. There's the kid on the beach, like, and playing his nappy, and it's like, oh my God, Michael. There's all of that.
Yeah.
So watching it as a young kid, you were like, oh shit, that's Dad is out there, or that's me, or that's me with a girlfriend on a boat. We've snuck off and blah 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 blah. With this, without the excitement of 3D, which admittedly hasn't held up in 2023, there's little attraction for kids of our generation. A, because SeaWorld is a massively cruel and vindictive kind of like corporation, which this film does a great job of trying to dissuade you from. It's wrong on a lot of levels, but not back in the 80s when, you could smoke cigarettes on a bus.
No.
True.
Do you think we should start a Kickstarter campaign and try and get like a revamped Jaws 3D, like clean up?
I'm not against it. I'd like to. Has it ever been remastered for Blu-ray? Have we had the definitive version of it? I'm not sure we have.
I don't think so. I'm not quite sure who owns the rights to it.
Okay.
Reading about it earlier, because they bought the rights off Universal or something.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, they did. There was some. It was a bit like when they made Never Say Never Again, isn't it? And
yes, originally they wanted to make it a spoof and call it Jaws 3 People Zero.
Okay.
And they brought on some writers from like National Lampoon's Animal House and stuff, but that quickly got dropped. But
again, would like that. I think now, was there ever a good spoof shark movie? I don't know. I can't think.
Well, someone will say Sharknadoes at me, but then I'll just shout them down.
Sharknado, that had Tara Reid in it. I was banned from the Sharknado 3 premiere because Jedward were going there, and they insisted I was not allowed to go.
Oh, really? What happened with you and Jedward?
I spent time with them when they were on Celebrity Big Brother, and then back in my drinking days, I did like a very fun evening on Twitter where I wrote a whole fan fiction book about their incestuous relationship, which apparently got back to them.
Yeah. Well, that would do it.
I'd buy you weren't expecting. Yeah. Their mythical incestuous relationship, I should.
Yes. Yeah. If any lawyers are listening,
the lawyers are listening.
Amazing.
Yeah. Apparently, Dennis Quaid spent most of this film on cocaine, and he can't really remember it.
That's not surprising, though, is it?
Not really. And the other brother, the kids from Jaws 2 seem to have grown up about 30 years between the second and the third one.
Yeah, they're fully grown, like hairy men. Yeah.
And if you got terrorized by a shark from 2 films, would you go and work with sea animals in a sea life?
I'd probably move inland.
Yeah, one brother does that, but the other one's like, no, I want to help.
Even
the
if you've
fish.
got an affinity with water, lakes, freshwater lakes in Windermere, I would say, a lot less likely to meet anything dangerous.
Yeah. What is your favourite scene of Jaws 3D?
Oh my goodness, it's the big reveal. There's like 10-second shots, awful but fantastic 10-second shot of the mother swimming painfully slowly towards a glass. Like they're in the. To give the view to the listeners that haven't stupidly watched Jaws 3D,
yeah,
it's set in an underwater and amazing. I mean, I still stand by it. Would absolutely fucking clean up if this theme park existed.
It looks great.
Yeah.
It's an underwater. It's a bit like the Abyss, like these huge tunnels where, even though it's just on the coast of, I'm going to say Florida, just for the sake of it.
I think it's Florida, isn't it? I
think so.
Somewhere like Miami, somewhere like that. Even though it's like on the coast, right? The coast is clearly in this part of Florida on a sheer face that goes down. I'm going to say about 400 feet. The second you go into it, you can go down. There's no shore there. It's just down. You're in the deep ocean within seconds of being in there, and it's interconnected pods with tunnels that is like air pressurized, amazing, and obviously completely shark proof, because they go great pains to say that it's a very kind of again, Jurassic Park stole from Jaws 3D.
Oh my god, it did.
Who spared no expense. all of that is in the opening kind of like setup for Jaws 3D, where they say this is the most technologically advanced kind of theme water park ever, blah 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 blah. Let the kids in, let the kids in. In fact, the reboot of Jurassic Park did that as well.
Yeah.
Like this theme park cannot go wrong. Let everyone in. And anyway, the baby's died in the paddling pool after eating its own shit. The mother has revealed itself, get broke in just through. There's literally just some steel gates, just clattering slightly outside. The dolphins, the kind of clever dolphins had gone missing, I think, by this time.
Yeah, they're hiding somewhere.
Humans. We thought they were dead. Thought they were dead. They were not dead.
That's
and there's, as with all Jaws films, it's like, what the fuck is going on? Everything points to a shark attack, but we're not going to surmise that it's a shark attack until we get attacked by a shark. That's what happens in all Jaws films. This one, they're in one of the tunnels, and someone goes something like, "Holy fucking shit!" and they all turn around and stand very still for a very long time, whilst an incomprehensibly large shark that is more like what's the megalodon? Like the shark,
megalodon,
megalodon. Shark.
The Meg, yeah.
Can obviously see them from, I'm going to say maybe about 2.5 fathoms away, and just swims to them in 3D very, very slowly. To the cinema viewers, absolutely fucking thrilling. It was just like amazing. Here it comes. It's going to be big. They do nothing to lead.
No.
They stand and watch the shark swimming towards them.
They slow that bit down. I watched it this morning. They slow it down. Their reaction they put in slow mo. So,
and we all know what's going to happen, even though they're all marine biologists, have no idea what's going to happen. And it takes approximately like 35, 40 seconds for this kind of to transpire. In the cinemas, looked absolutely fucking brilliant in the 80s. On telly nowadays, it's like, if we can have like 19 cuts of Liam Neeson jumping over a wire fence, we have a single lingering shot of the fakest shark in the world, just not even swimming, just moving.
Yeah,
it's like a cutout moving towards the screen. Glorious. That's why it's the best sequel ever. Get back in your fucking box, couple.
Love it. I've got a little question for you. So this is not your worst sequel ever, but what has been your most disappointing sequel?
Oh Jesus!
So not the worst. So it can be a good sequel, but it's the one you went in hot and came out cold.
Oh dear.
Doesn't have to be back. It can be recent if you want.
That's right. A lot of people do like Matrix or Star Wars, or there's quite a lot of
Star Treks, Marvels, Bonds.
I'm going to say Blade Runner 2049.
Wow.
Okay. That's one of Dave's favourite films. So this is going to be fun.
This is a roller coaster.
With the yin and the yang here. And only because, look, there are many, many things I enjoyed about it. I loved it. It looked amazing.
Yeah.
Huge holographic naked women. I mean, it's a dream gig. And Batista was brilliant. And the general premise of the film was great. It was disappointing because it could only ever be disappointing. And I say this as someone who thinks the original Blade Runner is an absolute bag of shit.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. And it's a little bit meta. It's a little bit in the weeds. So at the time it came out, I was the film critic for The Sun. For many, many reasons. Don't hold it against me. And what really annoyed people about me doing that job was that you could write as many as you wanted for Empire magazine. I was still the most widely read film critic in the UK. Sorry, Commode. But at the time that came out, I was invited with Mark Commode and with Robbie Collin and with lots of other middle-aged white men to go and sit in the IMAX on Leicester Square, and actually there were 5 of us in. Now, if you've ever been to the IMAX Leicester Square, it's fucking ginormous.
Yeah.
And 5 of us in, and it was the most ridiculous, over the top, like secure thing. The phones in the bags, laptops weren't allowed in. You couldn't even take your bag in. All of that kind of stuff. And I don't really know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting it just to be. I just found it and it had the opportunity to be extremely thrilling and extremely exciting, and to take, in between Blade Runner 1 and Blade Runner 2, we'd had what should have been the Blade Runner sequel, which is the Battlestar Galactica TV series. Now, if that had been a Blade Runner sequel, people would have been absolutely creaming over that, and it would now be revered as being one of the greatest television series of all time on a mass scale, as opposed to a niche thing. The premise of the Battlestar Galactica TV series had more to do with Blade Runner than it did with the original Battlestar Galactica series back then. So I was just left cold. I just thought it was all fur coat and no knickers, and I just thought it was just such a waste of Harrison Ford and Ryan Reynolds, and great coat, shit film.
Wow, because I'm not a fan of the original Blade Runner. I respect it, but I don't get on board with it. And I went and saw the second one, and it completely blew me away.
Oh, but the twist, I mean, come on.
But it looks so good, Jamie, and it sounds so good. And
hey, lots of things look good.
The problem with this podcast
really looked good.
That's true. I'm easily convinced.
Yeah.
The reasons I love doing this podcast so much is these little times like this when Dave has a little existential crisis. Just stares off into the distance.
Yeah, and I just think that for the time that they had to make that, they could have drawn upon the creme de la creme of writing talent. Of cinematography looked amazing. Direction was brilliant. It was the story and the script was dog dirt.
Okay.
The twist was okay, but you could see it coming. They could have made it perfect.
What rating did you give it? Do you remember? What was the Sun's? Was it out of 5 or 10 stars? Was it?
I suspect I probably gave it quite a lot of stars. That's how film criticism works.
Because you had to.
We didn't have. You know what? We never had to. You have to put when I used to review films, you have to put yourself in the mind of the people watching the film as opposed to your own personal views. I watched some absolute shite, but knew that people would love it. Now, it's not for me to try and persuade them otherwise. It's not for me to persuade people that they shouldn't enjoy a film.
Yeah.
If I see a film that truly, Greatest Showman's a great example of that. I was one of the few film critics that gave that 5 stars off the bat. I said, this is a fucking phenomenon waiting to happen. It's extraordinary. It's not great, but it's going to be extraordinary. This is going to drive everyone mad for years.
Yeah.
And I was a lone wolf in that. And Commode even went back and re-reviewed it and changed his rating of it, which is the worst thing I think a film critic could ever do.
Oh, wow. I agree. Oh, God. We're talking about bad films. Let's get on to your worst ever sequel. What is your worst ever sequel?
It's Speed 2: Cruise Control.
Yes, it is. And colon is the appropriate word.
Again, file this under sitting duck, like open goal.
Yeah.
Open goal that could not have missed any further. I don't even know what it could have done to have made it worse. Now, I don't know much about the background or the business behind it, but am I right in thinking that it all went to shit? Like the original people just weren't interested in doing another one, so someone else came along and just. I
think it wasn't supposed to. Was this one of the ones that it wasn't originally a Speed movie, and they adapted another movie for.
Yes, I mean. There's a few things. Gus Van Sant basically had a dream one night, and it was this, and this is the film he was going to make.
It's a reason we can rarely remember our dreams.
Yeah. And Keanu Reeves read the script, thought it was rubbish, didn't want to do it. He went and made Devil's Advocate instead, which is a great choice.
Look at the ass on that!
So good. Sandra Bullock didn't really want to do it, but they paid her a lot of money, and it made her make a film she wanted to make called Hope Floats. She made like 13 million off this back of Speed 2. It's crazy.
I mean, fair play. Not going to attract anyone from making bank.
The budget for this movie is phenomenal.
Compared to
160 million they spent on this piece of
Speed
shit.
1 was 30.
Yeah.
Well, coaches, I mean, a bus is cheaper than a boat.
I mean, it's called Speed, and they picked the famously slow ocean liner.
They're often, films are made by committee.
Yes.
Every film is made by committee, which is why it's the more complex thing that this film got through so many people without anyone going. The whole fun about Speed was that there was actual speed in it.
And it's so slow that at the point where the boat crashes into the harbour towards the end, they have to physically speed up the film. Everyone's running in fast motion because it's so slow and dull. It's like, you just stood there looking at your watch going, when's it going to get here?
It's just awful. It's a film that you watch and you just feel immediately sorry for everyone connected to it. And the cast, they should have known better. Willem Dafoe, Jason Patrick, maybe.
Jason Patrick got paid a lot of money for this first action role.
Did it kill his career a bit though? Didn't it?
I think yes. I think so.
What? Okay, right. Fill in the gaps between Lost Boys and Speed 2: Cruise Control. What have been going on in the Patrick business manager offices in between?
I don't know.
Yeah, he would have done this for just to stand within 20 foot of Sandra Bullock at the time.
Yeah, I mean, Sleepers had just come out, and that's quite a good film, I think.
Which one was Sleepers? That was Kiefer Sutherland was in that.
Yeah,
as well?
Kevin Bacon, Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, Brad Pitt. It's about when they killed someone when they were young, and they all got sent to juvie.
Shit, no, I'm thinking of Flatliners, which is a very good film. Again, great film.
Yeah. No, this was one about being put in juvie and then all being abused.
Yeah, that was
they all grow up.
Just before or just after?
It says they chose Patrick based on his role in Sleepers, 1996.
Okay.
Patrick was paid reported 4.5 to 8 million for his role in Speed 2.
The interesting thing about this, and I am cribbing from Wikipedia, is that
yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Roger Ebert defended it. We talk about film critics. This sounds a bit like me giving Blade Runner 2049 4 or 5 stars. Roger Ebert defended this, calling it a truly rousing ocean liner adventure story.
Well, that sounds boring as well, doesn't it?
I mean,
and how many of them are there?
Well, there's this in Titanic. Surely that's it. They both bombed, both sank.
Poseidon Adventure as well. Yeah, this is not. Well, we've watched so many bad sequels. This is starting to look good though for us.
Is it? I don't think it is, Dave.
I watched it again today, and I was entertained.
It's still up there with the worst for me.
It's bad. I mean,
this and Sex and the City 2 and Alien vs Predator 2. They're all kind of hand in hand there with the worst.
But William Dafoe's having so much fun.
Is he though, or is he just on drugs?
He could be.
He's chewing the scenery, whatever he's doing.
But it was really difficult to think of the worst one, and I've only watched this once.
Oh, was that? When was that?
Yeah, well, I mean, when it came out.
But why would you watch it again? That's the thing.
This is I think if you've gone back, then it cannot be the worst one because it means that you can stomach it again. And I'm all for a bit of ironic shit posting about things, but if a truly, truly bad thing is just bad, it's not good bad. It just stinks, So there are plenty of bad Mamma Mia 2. There's plenty of kind of sequels that are bad, but that you can just go, oh, fucking hell, and kind of throw your popcorn. This just makes you feel like you've fucking hell, I could have given that money to charity.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Do you think it's bad because Speed is so good?
Yeah, there was the disappointment. It was like what a great premise, and all they had to do was do Speed again. It's like Gremlins 2.
Yeah.
All they had to do was do the same fucking film. But for some god-known reason, and it didn't have to have Keanu Reeves in it. He wasn't that great in Speed. He was a bit shit. He just had a good haircut. It just had, Jason Patrick could have been good in this. They had a million other vehicles to choose other than an ocean liner.
Yeah, they really did.
There's a bit at the end when there's one of the captains is counting down knots, and he's really trying to sell it, but it also makes him sound like he is jizzing at the same time. And he works down from like 7 to 2, and and he like, I'm not quite sure how slow a knot is, but it doesn't sound very fast.
Yeah,
and plus
I don't know how much
they've pointed out like what they're going to crash into about 45 minutes before they potentially crash into it. And
this is the thing. There is so much time. You can the sea is a big place. Just steer it in a different direction.
I mean, the bad guy even lets people off the boat at one point. So
it's mental. There's a great spoof disaster film, which is like one of my favorite childhood films ever, called The Big Bus. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
It is fucking brilliant. It spoofs Speed 2 probably 20 years before Speed 2 came out, because it was exactly that. It's a bus. It's like a coat. It's not a bus as in like the Speed, the original. It's a big fucking. I think it's it's supposed to be the biggest bus ever made. That was its set point. It was like, so it's the launch of, especially Titanic with a bus. It's got like discos in it. It's got like a pool. It's got a swimming pool area. Got a hot tub area. It's got like sleeping quarters. There are theoretically there's supposed to be like about 700 people on this bus.
It's a big bus.
It's a big bus traveling coast to coast, and lo and behold, there's a fucking bomb on it. And the same thing, but they spoof it, which is just like they end up. It was spoofing the airplane movies, but in actuality, it's Speed 2 before it was made, because it's just like, not at any point does anyone think this tiny stick of dynamite, they could just take it off and just throw it off the bus. and if you go and watch it, it's got Stockard Channing in it. That's how like B movie this is. It's fucking brilliant.
I'm going to check that one out. That sounds great.
And give yourself the antidote to Speed 2 by watching The Big Bus.
If they made a Speed 3, because this pretty much killed this off. There could have been so many Speed films. Would you watch it?
I would watch it if they did it on segways.
That's faster than a boat.
It's faster than a boat, more trepidation, and it's all in. You can't put the driver off, because they've got to be leaning. They've got to have constant thought in the direction.
It's the Speed 2 Paul Blart Mall Cop crossover we didn't know we needed.
The inventor of segways can die from falling off a segway. There's all the jeopardy you need for a Speed sequel.
Yeah. I forgot to ask, did you see this in the cinema? Were you one of those few people?
I think this was tail end VHS, wasn't it? Was this still kind of blockbuster era? I seem to.
Yes, I would say so.
So I didn't.
1997, massive, pure, yeah.
So I can't confess to have queued up at the cinema to watch it, but I probably did stand impatiently at Blockbuster waiting for someone else to bring it back.
Brilliant. Rush hour hits the water.
I was trying. Yeah, it doesn't though, does it?
No.
You know, the thing is rush hour on the water. You know, there's never a traffic jam at sea.
No.
I'm aware.
And the use of UB40 is a bit strange, isn't it?
I mean, UB40 is always strange. Yeah. They have a very strange relationship with films, though, haven't they? They had their biggest hit from doing the soundtrack to Sliver.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Which they had no relation. It's like a reggae version of "Can't Help Falling in Love with You," about a film which Sharon Stone is watched. Is she watched having a wank?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
What is going on? What?
Have you never seen the film The Slither?
No.
Oh, it's about a voyeur who like has cameras in all these different apartments, and
hugely problematic now.
Incredibly, and it's got
because there's a point where they're just like, okay, well, you know, this is just sexy. It's like, no, it's not.
But the big song from it was "I Can't Help Falling in Love." But yeah, UB40's terrible, awful cover version of the Elvis song.
Yeah. And it was Sharon Stone's first film after Basic Instinct. So it was sold as a sexy thing.
Yeah. And it was creepy.
I'm going to have to check that out as well.
One of the Baldwin brothers. The one that wasn't on Celeb Big Brother and the one that didn't shoot someone. I can't remember.
Stephen?
Oh, yeah.
I want to say Stephen.
The one that's in Vampires, whatever it's called.
That's it, yeah. Not the one that owned a silk factory in Corrie.
Another quick question to get your head working even more. Is there ever been like a franchise or a sequel that's brought you back to like in that series? So the first one wasn't good, but the second one, third one, even fourth one was good.
Oh God, that's a great question.
So you kind of got dragged to see it, but you came out loving it.
Huh.
We can throw examples because we do call this the Fast and Furious question.
Oh, do you? Oh, sorry. Yeah, throw me.
So Fast and Furious is one because 5 is better than most of them. We recently watched the third Planet of the Apes, and I think that's quite interesting compared to the second one, as in the original Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, okay. I think Fast and Furious is a good example of something that really finds its niche 6 films in, which is like, it's like a band being signed in the 70s, and it's the Radiohead, isn't it? They didn't find their Kid A until like the sixth film.
Yeah,
and I've got a feeling I didn't see the first. I think my first Fast and Furious was when I reviewed it.
Oh right.
Would have been which was the one where Vin Diesel like basically knocks a nuclear submarine.
That's 8.
Back in the ice. So I didn't see that. That was my first one. I was like, okay, I get it now because they're fucking daft. I think take me through. The fella that died that they keep like
Paul Walker
CGI into every fucking film since. He died quite early on, right? Maybe what was it, like the 5th or something?
He died in the 7th.
Yeah.
During the film of the 7th.
So the first one is like
it's the car thing, right?
Yeah.
First it's just a petrol head film.
Yeah. The first one is
Max
Point
Power.
Break, but with cars instead of surfboards. Basically, it's exactly the same movie.
But maybe I'd enjoy that.
Like,
was it bad?
No,
That's
it's good. It's good. It's like it's pretty low stakes. They're stealing DVD players, and
at which point, help me out in this. Which point was the fabled Rock and Vin Diesel contractual? Neither can lose a fight.
They got together in the 5th one.
yeah, the 5th
It's
one.
when
I
the
think
Rock comes into it.
fell apart around 6 or 7, didn't it, Dave? 7 or 8, maybe.
Dwayne Johnson,
Yes, I think during the 6th one.
Dwayne Johnson's a franchise killer.
He is. He's so desperate for a franchise at the moment. He's reaching out for everything.
He's single-handedly destroyed the DC universe so much that they had to bring in the guy that, like James Gunn from Marvel, to come and fucking save him. Because he just got... Can you remember all the marketing, like the teasing about Black Adam? I don't know what I was expecting from Black Adam, but it was not basically every other DC film just in a different case.
Yeah, it was.
He was going on Instagram.
Mm.
I was expecting just the rewriting of superhero movies
Instead of 2 hours of smashy, and that was it.
It just wasn't even. Yeah, again, just not good, bad, just bad.
Yeah,
it was just like anyway. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's he is reaching out quite heavily. He needs that legacy film, Rock. He needs that thing that he's going to be remembered for.
Are you saying Skyscraper's not his legacy film?
No.
That had a man with a titanium leg jumping uphill from a crane at least 40 foot onto a windowsill.
I've not
good.
seen that movie, but that sounds
Oh,
entertaining.
Rich, you should watch it. It's got Nev Campbell in it. You'll love it.
Oh, okay.
It's a great film. It's a great, stupid film.
Yes.
Not his legacy, though. Not one that the kids are going to like project onto the side of a house after he dies.
Because he still hasn't got that film. Because for me, he's still The Rock from wrestling. I mean, he's made some good films. I like Welcome to the Jungle, but he hasn't got like the Rocky or the Terminator that the other action heroes has. Or Vin Diesel, you know, or even Statham, kind of got the transporter at least.
It's because he just plays The Rock.
Yeah.
You could argue that they're all part of one multiverse, you know, every one of them. But yeah, he's not like you could argue he's in the same problem that Arnie has, is that every film Arnie is just Arnie, but he hasn't got the same charm as Arnie, I don't think. You know,
I think The Rock's best movie is Moana.
Well, that's why he's redoing it.
Because he's not in it. He's like, it's just his voice, isn't it? It's not him.
He refuses to believe it's him in it.
I do like his TV series. Quite liked the Ballers TV series about the NFL he was in.
I've never watched that. That is supposed to be really good.
Yeah, the first few series are quite good, and then it goes off the rails a bit. I think he got his hands too much on it, but it's enjoyable. I like the younger Rock films, not like, what is it, The Scorpion King or whatever. That's a bad film.
Jumanji's a great film.
Jumanji's a great film.
Yeah.
Even the Baywatch movie isn't terrible. Dare I say it? I think that's quite watchable.
I said it. I'm ashamed.
We have reasons behind that. What is your dream sequel?
E.T. I mean, you can sense a theme here. It's very 80s heavy. E.T. is my favourite film of all time. It might not be the best film of all time, but it's my favourite film of all time. I think it's just speaks to me on so many levels as a father, as a child, as a result of a divorced parents, as a sci-fi lover, as someone who just would have done anything to be American, as BMXer. I cannot get over how much this film affected me as a child and how much I loved it and how much it's still. I spoke about this before, actually. You know, like your food critic in Ratatouille. You know, when he eats the ratatouille, that great shot of it, and becoming that kid again, is how I feel every time I see a picture of ET. I can smell the smells. I can remember the T-shirts I was wearing when I watched it. I can remember again having it on pirate TV. And like the babysitter at the time was a girl called Heather. She'd never seen it. We'd never seen it. The first time I watched it was on pirate TV with the babysitter and my sister, and just not being prepared, just for being just distraught. Like I've never cried as much in my life as I cried the first time I watched E.T. And you know, the never experienced the joy, as much joy. Birth of children and marriages.
Good answer if they're listening.
As when you saw the flowers regrowing in the pot, when they panned, they did that slow zoom towards the chamber, and Elliot's being carried away. So for all the reasons that people got excited about Blade Runner 2049 are the reasons that I get excited thinking about an ET sequel, because I think Spielberg will get it right.
Have you heard about the treatment?
So I'm ignoring that.
Ignoring that.
Good.
So this is a multiverse where that never happened. So there was a treatment where did they come back and
it's called
evil ET. Yeah,
it's called Nocturnal Fears. And
he had a name, didn't he? E.T. actually had a name, which I don't want to, which is kind of like spoils things.
Yeah, it's like Shrek or something weird.
But like, just not. It wasn't a Spielberg treatment, was it? It wasn't the Steven that we know and love. He was having a bad day.
I think he really didn't want to make a sequel, and so he wrote this treatment to put them off ever making a sequel.
It's like Nick Cave writing the sequel for Gladiator.
Yes.
But that is so batshit crazy it could work. The
100%.
Christ Killer, whatever it was called.
It's going to be better than the sequel that they made.
Well, we'll see.
So yeah, I'm ignoring that even exists, because I think you catch Spielberg on a good day, he'd fancy it.
Yeah.
And the premise of E.T. being a botanist and them coming to kind of to collect samples of the climate controllers. So there's an underpinning of like E.T. could save the world, like in some way, shape, or form. There could be this kind of like almost borrowing a little bit from the Transformers, that there's something buried in the ice somewhere. There's a shred. There's a little shred of a story where E.T. comes back at the behest of Elliot, obviously.
Yeah.
Elliot male, as in man, or would you like this soon in the 80s after the E.T.? When would you have liked this set?
Oh no, this is present day.
Okay, cool. As in, so Elliot's now a man.
Yeah, Elliot is Henry Thomas. He's just finished filming Haunting of Hill House.
Oh wow!
And so, yeah, because can you imagine Henry Thomas and Drew Barrymore, kind of like there's just such a great shot. The trailer is the world's gone to shit. Trump, COVID, blah 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 blah, climate, flooding, drought, all of this shit going off, and you see Elliot as a man just going up into his attic and blowing the dust off a speaking spell. Fucking instant hype.
Yeah, it sounds good.
And I just think that no one could do it but Spielberg. He would have to just like he'd just have to go all in. You know, it'd be Indy 3. It would have to like him just being him knowing what he does well and just going, fuck it. All right. Okay. One last time. You ain't going anywhere, John Williams.
Yeah.
Just hold hold on 1 second, because ET has the greatest score, the most underrated score. It never ever gets talked about, and it's the best.
It's a brilliant score. Yeah, it really is.
Score, arguably better than Raiders, arguably better than all of them. It's just incredible, and I just think that he could do it, and it would be brilliant. Keep it real, keep it Grogu, keep it puppets,
yeah.
CGI. We don't want Yoda fighting Dooku. We want Baby Yoda in a fucking little pram. That's what we want, and it would just be beautiful. It could be beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think there's still a market. I think that will be a huge hit if it happens. If Steven Spielberg does E.T. 2, wow.
No one's done an alien like E.T. E.T. is still the best looking alien ever.
He's still, yeah. I know.
It's not how you imagine an alien to be.
Yeah.
There's never been a better one ever.
No, I think you're right. Certainly not one that you want to be friends with, anyway.
Yeah.
No, and just not even just the way that the puppet looks, because it did look great. It looked ugly yet cute. It was the way that it was the interaction between E.T. and humans was just so spot on that I get goosebumps thinking about it now, because it's just, for me, just one of the most perfect films, and I love it.
Yeah. Are you worried that once Steven Spielberg's gone, I don't want that to be anytime soon because he's my favourite director, but are you worried that they will start returning to Steven Spielberg's back catalogues?
In place to stop that happening? I think there probably is. I think because they're so big that Harrison and Spielberg are no longer with us. I'd like to think that the pair of them were so powerful and rich and had so much control over their IP that it wouldn't happen. And I like to think Spielberg probably the same. Well, their Jurassic Park's a little bit, but he didn't write. That's Michael Crichton anyway. But I'd like to think that it wouldn't happen. But in the days, AI is hurtling towards us at a terrifying. We're probably going to be in a position in 5-10 years time where we wouldn't even need anyone to do it. We could just type it in and then watch it.
It's quite a scary thought, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is scary, and I don't think the world's prepared for it. Certainly creative industries are not prepared for how quickly it's going to come.
Yeah, true.
So we might not even need actors. It's just going to be.
We don't arguably, Abba Voyage has kind of shown that theatre's fucked.
Well, yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
And concerts in that case, then musicians won't have to tour soon. They'll just send out their holograms or whatever,
and everyone's worried, and they get excited about it because Ed Sheeran's thinking, great, I can play 30 countries in one night.
Yeah.
And actually what he's forgetting is that Ed Sheeran can play 30 countries in one night, but so can Elvis, mate.
Yeah.
And up against Elvis, you're still Ed Sheeran, dude.
That is true. Oh man.
So those were Jamie East's Unequal sequels. I mean, Jaws 3 for best sequel, and he did not care though, did he?
I loved talking to Jamie because his no fucks given kind of attitude to whatever anyone else thinks about films.
Yeah, it's quite refreshing.
Literally, yeah. I think I should use that more because I kind of think I sometimes give care what people think about movies, but I really like that. Jaws 3 is a terrible film, but I liked his story about going and seeing a teenager.
Yeah, me too.
Imagine going and seeing it the first time being like actual 3D, not like Avatar 3D, but the red and blue glasses. I think that must have been wild at the time.
I imagine it was.
I remember renting Piranha a few years ago. The remake Piranha from on DVD, and it came with the blue and red goggles. There's a version you could watch on it, and it was crap. It didn't work.
Really?
So I can't imagine how it worked. Jaws 3 would have worked on.
Don't know, but obviously it was enough to make an impression on young Jamie when he was around.
He does say it is not his best sequel ever, but for that memory, it is. And I think that's why we do this podcast, because
that's definitely why we do the podcast. And also, Jamie's opinion is valid. He was the most read film critic at one point. You know, he was the film critic for the Sun newspaper. I know that's basically swearing. I feel like I just washed my mouth out by saying the name, but yeah, he was the most read film critic at one point. We've got to listen to him. Come on.
Yeah, he makes opinions. Again, go listen to Another Slice. We talk about his career a bit more in that his film critic career. The fact that he doesn't like Blade Runner 2049. I know that's not one of his main picks, but still,
that rankles, right?
It
I could tell. Even now, your face is the picture.
I just can't believe how anyone cannot like that film. It's a masterpiece. Anyway, but his worst pick, which we can all get on board with, is Speed 2. And it gave me another opportunity to watch that piece of shit. Rich, you didn't watch it again.
I didn't watch it again because honestly, what's the point? Like, it's 9 hours in a day for me to torture myself watching that old nonsense again.
I went on a cruise, or not a cruise, a boat the other day. I crossed the English Channel for 6 hours. And it got me thinking a lot about Speed 2 and the speeds. And at no point did I think,
oh, this boat's going quick.
This is out of control. I wonder how we can get off it. I just jump off. Just jump off. It's an easy thing.
Yeah.
I didn't feel in any way danger. And Keanu Reeves wasn't in that film anyway, so he wasn't going to save me.
No, true. You'd end up with Jason Patrick saving you instead. Not Robert Patrick. That's T1000. Jason Patrick saving you, which, you know,
it's not the same, is it?
Probably
really?
just drown.
Are you ever going to watch that film again, Speed 2?
Not unless I really have to. Not unless someone picks it in like Series 10 and I've forgotten about it.
Which part are you going to forget? UB40?
Oh, God. I just wish I could scrub UB40 from my brain. Yeah, all of it. The
leeches, which never really gets explained at all, really.
Doesn't go anywhere, does it?
The whole thing doesn't go anywhere. And then his dream pick was E.T., which is always delightful to talk about.
Yeah, it's nice to talk about nocturnal fears, the treatment for an E.T. sequel.
That shit crazy one. I do like talking to people about E.T. because it holds dearly to a lot of people, and
it does, yeah.
But a sequel to that would worry me unless Spielberg is going to direct it, and I don't think it's going to happen now, is it?
No, I don't think so. I think it's probably done.
What worries me is when these great directors have died, and then who owns their IP? You know, their back catalogue, because he hasn't sold it. I don't think, like those kind of films. And it's something bad's going to happen in the future.
Do you think?
Oh, we don't live in a good world, Rich.
You think they'll remake E.T.?
I reckon. Ugh. I reckon they're going to remake Back to the Future soon. I've had a bad dream.
You had a bad dream that they remade Back to the Future,
and it was awful. Yeah, but thank you, Jamie, for coming on our podcast. Thank you for picking some brilliant, wild, out there films, and thank you for being so passionate when you talked about them. We loved talking to you about them. Go listen to Jamie's podcasts. Yeah, The Succession. I haven't listened to any of them because I don't watch Succession, and I'm planning to watch Succession. So when I do watch Succession, I'll listen to it. But I do listen to along with House of Dragon, and I sometimes pop into Smart 7 when I need news very quickly. It's a very simple but brilliant idea for a podcast when they get the news from around that day in 7 minutes.
It's very clever, although I do find myself somewhat depressed by the news. So yeah, like you say, I kind of try to dip in and out of it rather than listening to big chunks.
They've just passed 1,000 episodes of that.
1,000 episodes!
So he does that every day. Commitment to the cause. So congratulations on that.
Real commitment.
You got anything else to say, Rich?
Well, only to say that if you really like this episode with Jamie East and you want to hear a bit more, maybe us talking to him about his career, which we do a lot more of, you can listen to the sequel to this episode by getting yourself onto anotherslice.com/unequal sequel and signing up for our subscription service. It's only $2.99 a month, which I think is a bit of a bargain, considering you get a sequel to all of our interview episodes from this season and last season for that matter, and you also get Disenfranchised, our new little thing that we've started about movies that should have had a franchise but didn't. You'll get Box Set Mentality, which is where we do a deep dive into a box set every month. So yeah, give us a listen. Go along there and sign up for that. I know $2.99 a month is it's not loads, but if that's kind of out of reach at the moment, you don't have to pay that. We just appreciate you listening. Keep listening. Hit the little subscribe button. Hit that auto download button, and we'll drop into your pod player of choice every single week. Also, make sure that you give us a little rating. Give us 5 stars. Tap out a little review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll be very happy for you to do that. You can also get in touch with us. unequalsequel@hotmail.com for the emails, and also we are on social media, which is @unequalsequel on Twitter and Instagram. So get in touch. Anything you get in touch with us about, we'll read out in our end of month roundup at the end of the month.
Absolutely beautiful. Well done. Been a bit rusty recently, haven't we? Because we haven't done this for a while.
We haven't done this for a while. It's felt like a big gap between season 4 and 5.
Oh, yeah, we're really sorry about that big gap because we kept getting ill.
Yeah, we did. Life was getting in the way.
It did get go in the way big time. And just on the eve of season 5, I thought I'm going to come back. Oh, guns firing. Bang, 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 bang. COVID.
Dave got COVID. First time, Dave. First time for COVID as well.
Yeah.
I've had it 4 times now, and you've just had the 1. So,
once is enough.
You've been doing all right.
There was a couple of days there when I just wanted to peel my skin off. I got really hot. The fever.
It's not fun,
the fever. Not fun. But all good now. We are ploughing on. Got loads of great names. Really funny picks coming up. Really funny conversations. Great conversations. So stay on board for that. Thank you for listening. You're all brilliant. I love you all.
Yeah.
Yes, you. You in particular. I've got nothing else to say. So you've got anything else to say, Rich?
No, that's it.
Yeah, so carry on listening. Thank you for listening. And it's a bye from me. And it is a goodbye from him as well.
Bye!
See you on the next one. Sequel to this one. It's coming next week. Bye-bye.
You've given up on your different buys now, I see.
That just stressed me out.
It was killing you, was it? Yeah.
Yes.
Too much. Yeah.
There's not enough languages in the world for me trying to learn.
Sure, there's not enough
Like
of
Papua
double
New Guinea.
acts.
There's loads of double acts.
There's loads of languages, Dave.